Welcome into the inaugural edition of the Brierchat Podcast. We're here at America's Resort, the Greenbrier, and this is a venture we've been looking to get started for a while now. We started out maybe just trying to do an audio podcast, but thanks to Jacob McCutcheon, our incredibly talented videographer here at the Greenbrier, we're able to turn it into a video podcast because when you talk about the Greenbrier, people want to see what you're talking about because the look of the Greenbrier is what made it the Greenbrier. So we're excited to get this venture off the ground with our inaugural podcast. And we decided today there's no better way to get it started than talking about the legendary Frank Mosley, who recently passed away, but worked at the Greenbrier for over 6 decades and left an incredible legacy behind. So I'm joined today by our historian emeritus, Dr. Bob Conti, joined by Greg Scott, Reverend Greg Scott, and Dale Mann, who all worked with Frank at the front door out here right behind us for years and years and got to know him well. So we're just going to, on today's podcast, talk a little bit about Frank, tell a little bit about his story, get to know what he accomplished here at the Greenbrier and the legacy he leaves behind. We're going to start out, though, nobody tells the story of Frank Mosley better than Frank Mosley himself. So we're going to take a look back at a video we did in 2016 with Frank introducing himself and telling his story of getting to the Greenbrier in the years that he worked here.
I worked on the railroad 10 years before I come here. I got cut off on the railroad, didn't get fired, I got cut off, didn't have enough seniority. I was looking for work. The man had repossessed my car. I had a little 55 Chevrolet. The man had repossessed it and took it back. You know, I wasn't ashamed to tell it, I didn't have no money to pay him. The payment was $30 a month. I was 3 months behind, wasn't even $100, but I didn't have it. So I was looking for work, so I bought my brother's car, and I drove from Thurman to White Sulphur. I seen this big building. I didn't know about the Greenbrier. I said, well, they got to be.
I'm sorry, wait a second. Are you saying you drove your brother's car? You didn't know, you just saw this giant building
Just
on the road?
saw that giant building. And I drove my brother's car up here, and I walked in that personnel office, and the lady said, may I help you? I said, I'm looking for a job. She said, we don't have no openings, get out of here. And she said it in a nice way.
Right.
So I left, got my brother's car and drove all the way back to Thurman. The next morning, I drove right back up here. I just decided that big as that place was, they got to have something for somebody to do something. And I came back the second day. I walked in the office. She said, I told you yesterday that we didn't have no openings. Okay. I walked out the door. And the third day, I drove another 100 miles and came back to that personnel office, walked in the door. She looked at me, said, I told you 2 days ago that we didn't have no work. I said, thank you, started at the door. She said, wait just a few minutes. I got a temporary job open. Say, if you want his job, when he come back, out you go. So he might be here tomorrow, it might be next week, but whenever he come back, I'm done. When Ira come back, didn't nobody tell me to leave, what would you done? I learned to be patient. Because if I had to just give up, I never would have had this job here. I didn't give up. But I was a busboy for a long time.
Long time meaning we're talking 10 years, 5 years?
Maybe 8 years.
8 years.
And then I moved up to waiter. I was a waiter about 10 years.
So you're in the main dining room, 8 years, then what happens?
The work got kind of heavy.
Got it.
So I was looking for something a little more lighter, and that's when I went out on the door and took what we call, I'm just a greeter now. I just stand over the door for the guests, don't do a whole lot of lifting. At my age, I'm 84, 85, I done lost track. And so now I just stand around and talk to the guests and greet them.
You moved to the door in the late 60s?
Early 70s.
Early 70s.
And I was a doorman then. I worked pretty hard then.
Yep, you really are an institution. I don't know if that makes you feel funny or not, but
tell
people.
The truth, I wonder about that. See, I was brought up poor with nothing. So I don't feel like I'm a celebrity, but a lot of people tell me that. A lot of guests say, you're a celebrity. I saw your face. I saw you on Facebook. I saw you on TV. I said, well, that's the way you feel about it, that's fine. But I just feel natural. There's one thing my dad told me years ago that I'll never forget. He said, son, when you grow up, what I want you to do is treat a man like you want to be treated in life, and you'll get along. That's the way I try to do everybody. I don't care what it is. Big shots, little shots, used to be, wannabes. I treat everybody alike. That way you have no problem. Do your job, be on time, and respect your elder.
What has the Greenbrier meant to you?
I'll tell you the truth, it means a lot to me. I raised all my children. I raised my family here. And I have no regrets whatsoever. I have, it's no way in the world I could even thank them for keeping me here so long. I cannot thank them enough.
Right.
I'll be true with you.
Yeah.
I've been here 57, 58?
Yeah, 57, almost.
And I haven't been off 3 days. You have to love what you do. You have to love people to work out front. I see thousands of people a day.
Thank you, Frank. A Greenbrier institution, Frank Mosley.
I think the video said it best. You can't really argue Frank is a Greenbrier institution, and he talked in that video about feeling like a celebrity at times, and I know you two saw that pretty often. How much of a celebrity was he at that front door when guests would get out of the car?
100%. They said, or is he still? Yeah.
And they love to get pictures with him as well.
Legend. And he'll never be replaced from no one. I mean, what he brought here was the love for his job, the love for people. He loved people, and he loved these people here, and that was his life. That's why he stayed so long.
Right.
He loved this hotel. This was his life.
Mm-hmm.
And if he could still be here today, he'd be here today.
Right.
That's just Frank. That's what Frank was to the Greenbrier. This was his home, and this was his family, and to the very end.
Yeah, I think when you look at that video and you hear the numbers, and you think he was here for over 60 years, and that sounds incredible on its own. But then when you watch the video and you hear him talk about coming here in 1959, Dr. Bob, you're a historian. How many things have happened here at the Greenbrier since 1959?
Right, it's an incredible span of history from the late 50s. You know, gosh, Dorothy Draper and Sam Snead were still coming on a regular basis back then. You know, and he plugged right into that, particularly back there in the 50s. You know, and very much the social resort and all the Sam Snead hosting all those golf tournaments here, and and here's somebody who goes right back to that period.
Right, absolutely. And you guys are lucky enough to have known Frank a lot longer than I did, but I remember my first introduction to him. I was still working as a reporter in Beckley, and I was here covering, I was talking to Dr. Bob about this a minute ago, the 100th anniversary of the Old White Course, and Governor Justice, not governor at the time, Jim Justice at the time, brought out Frank and introduced him and kind of told his story of how long he's been here, and he was wearing that big red coat, and I didn't know anything about his story at the time, but was absolutely amazed, and then started working here and getting to know him and getting to hear his stories. The thing that jumped out to me with Frank is how much he lit up when a camera or a video crew would come around. He loved to be here.
He loved cameras. He loved some cameras. He took a picture in a minute.
Absolutely.
Well, of course, that red jacket made him very photogenic.
Yeah. And it's amazing. He loved his coat. He wouldn't take that coat off. I'm going to tell you, no, that coat went with him. That was his trademark.
That digital cameras and cell phones happened together.
If Carlton Varley did anything here at the Greenbrier, when he presented that coat to Frank and made that coat for Frank, that was a legend right there.
Absolutely.
Right.
What are some of your first memories of meeting Frank? Do you remember one of the first times?
I came on the door. I've been here going on 48 years. I came on the door with Frank in 79.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on the front door since 1979. Frank Mosley taught me a lot about life itself. You know, when you're young, you do a lot of crazy things. You don't listen to people. You just got your own mind to do things. Frank would never tell you what to do. He would advise you what he would do. And if you picked up on it, okay. And if you didn't, well, he would still punch at you every day about, well, I told you the other day, you ought to do this, you ought to do that. Because he wanted to get through to you that I'm not your daddy, and I'm not trying to tell you what to do, even though we called him daddy. That's what us men call him on this door is dad. But that was just his nature. He was a soft-spoken, and you had to respect what he was saying. So you didn't get mad about anything he said, because why would he waste his time to tell you if he never experienced it?
Right.
So when he took time to tell you, you might have went home and thought about it, and you didn't let him know because you didn't want him to be right.
Right.
But deep down inside, he helped mature and bring you along to teach you some of the things he's left now with us. Mm-hmm. This is entrusted to us. And we have a feeling, as Mr. Conte, we all have the same feeling that he had. This place is an institution. It's been so good to so many people. Not only the guests, our employees, our owner. If our owner didn't take the love he had in this place, he wouldn't have bought this. But because he was raised through here, that's what made him enjoy and love this place as much. Frank was the same way. Those days he came knocking up here on that door, nobody would take him. He was determined, I'm going to get a job. And eventually he got a job. And it took him to almost be 80 to get full time.
Right.
So he said.
You're right. Yeah, that's another great story. Is I think it was, when was it he officially became? I know at some point they told him he was officially full time. It wasn't.
I think it was his 50th anniversary.
50th anniversary.
Special ceremony down in the movie theater, and we had maybe he's given a pin or something, and I remember him saying, "Nobody ever told me I'm a permanent employee," and the president of Greenbrier says, "You're a permanent employee." This is 50 years on.
So he stayed on for 50 years as a part-time worker.
Yeah, that is an incredible story. You guys, I know some of you got to know him outside of work a little bit. What was he like outside of work? The same person he is here?
He got off, took that red coat off, put on his blue jeans, his boots, or his overall, and headed to the store.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd say to me, he said, "Now, Reverend, don't pull out your money. Don't let them see what you got, because you won't get no more. You want to change, send them down here." After you mean it, he said, "Send them downstairs. They don't know what you got if you don't show it to them." So that's what I learned from him. Don't let the kids see what you got, because you're bound not getting no more.
Another interesting thing that a lot of people maybe don't even know about Frank is he was a Korean War veteran, served in the United States Army, was a recipient of a Purple Heart. He was shot just above the eye, and I know that was something he took great pride in. And a few years ago, one of the last years of the military tribute at the Greenbrier, he was presented with the Ford Oval of Honor for his service in the military, and I know that meant a lot to him.
Frank was also a Masonic Mason. He raised myself and he raised Reverend Scott within the lodge. He was our teller in the lodge until the very end. And some of the wisdom and some of the things that this man had and took away from here, that, I mean, it's life lessons that you just cannot ever get again. I mean, he's the man that he was. We could only wish to be half the man he was. And that's just from my heart. He was a great individual, a good father, and he was our father, and that's how we looked at it. And like I say, anyone that didn't pick up some kind of lesson from him on this front door, they missed out.
Now, we should add that Frank was sort of a legend amongst legends. The two guys we're talking about are quite far from legendary status. He was sort of the prime minister of this group, this incredible group that greets people at their front door. He had that longevity, but you guys ain't doing too badly out there.
And that's an interesting point, and I don't think that happens everywhere, but it certainly happens here, where employees, team members become part of the history. They can become part of the legacy. What do you think it is about the Greenbrier that makes that possible? That team members are so much part of the story?
Well, so many people grow up around here, and their aunts and uncles work. They hear about working at the hotel, going up to the hotel, And so from the time you're little, you look around and you see people, the generation before us, that had that long-term connection. And, these are secure jobs. These are good jobs. These are great jobs. It's, you're working in a wonderful place and in the hospitality industry. And it's kind of what you do around here. You can go there. And as I say, the benefits are good. The jobs are good. The guests are fun. What more can you ask for?
Right. And then I know one of the other things about Frank is that he talked about it. I know he was proud of all the people he met over the years. And as he said in the videos, he treated the biggest celebrity and the most normal person all the same. But he did get to meet a number of celebrities over the years. I know there's videos out there of him with different presidents. There's videos of him with famous athletes, famous actors and actresses, a little bit of everything. But I think all of them were just as happy to get their picture with Frank as he was to get their picture with them.
You would ask Frank, say, who's the most famous person that you've ever met? And Frank's response would be, you are. You're the most important person to me. You are. In this hotel. Yes. And that's what made him the legend that he is to this day. Is he treated everybody the same, not one person different.
Mm-hmm.
He loved this one like he loved that one, and he just that smile that he had, and just his soft demeanor, that was the thing. He could get his point across when he had to. We knew when to just step back as them. We knew when to step back, and I mean that's just the way that he carried himself. He carried himself into a manner and a mannerism that it taught us how to give back also. I just pray the younger ones can just learn from some of the legacies that are left here.
Absolutely.
Because this right here is history, and this will go down in history.
Absolutely. And one of the amazing things to me too has been, and not that I didn't expect it because I knew just how popular Frank was among guests, but the response since his passing has just been incredible. The people on social media, thousands of people posting their pictures of Frank and their memories of Frank. What's it been like at that front door the last few days?
People are shattered, they're heartbroken, but they're grateful to say they have met a living legend. Even when I'd go visit him in the nursing home, he'd look at me, he'd say, Rabbit, help me get my clothes on, I got to go to work. I said, no, you just sit here and were like, no, help me get my clothes on. The Greenbrier was his life. Mm-hmm. And since he's passed, the people have poured their love out to his family.
How much does that mean to you guys who work so closely with him to see that outpouring of love for him?
For an individual to touch someone's life, not just a parent but a child. When you've helped raise people's children that have had children, that come back and have had children, and they come back and the first thing they want to know, how's Frank? How's he doing? Even during his sickness, how's he doing? What can we do for him? Does his family need anything? And then, can I get a picture with him? All those things is what carries into where we are today with people wanting to know just how special Frank and our relationship with Frank is. Mm. That's a relationship that you just can never, ever, ever touch the way that he touched us.
If there's one thing that you guys, you've talked a couple times about wanting to carry on his legacy and pass on the lessons that you learned from him, if there's maybe one piece of advice or one lesson that you learned from him that you want to make sure that it's continued, what would that be?
Treat people like you want to be treated. Mm. Love them no matter what they do, what they say. Love them in spite of.
And I second that. Can't speak no truer words than the Reverend. That's what we were taught.
Mm-hmm. Well, an incredible legacy that he leaves behind. We appreciate all of you joining us to talk about that and his impact here. And we encourage people to jump on our Facebook page and leave your own memories. And we encourage everybody to come back each week as well and check out this Brierchat podcast as we explore more of the stories, the people, places, and the thing that make the Greenbrier amazing. But I think I speak for everyone when we couldn't have had a better start to this, to honor Frank and talk about the legacy he leaves behind. And great way to start it out.
And to have the great Dr. Bob here, that means a lot. This man is walking history.
Absolutely. It sounds like you might need a new chapter to your book, specifically on Frank.
That way. I bought a red jacket a few years ago, and I forgot. They put me out there, and I'm saying little words to me.
We'll go for that.
Well, we appreciate everybody joining us. We thank Encore for their audio help in making this possible. Thank Jacob McCutcheon for his video skills and all of our guests here today. And every one of you who has honored Frank over the last week or so, we say thanks. And we encourage you to come back for the next episode of the Brierchat Podcast. I'm Cam Huffman, Director of Public Relations here at the Greenbrier. Thanks for joining us.